Warren Buffett. When you hear that name, what do you picture? Probably a super cautious, patient investor, right? Someone who preaches value and prudence. But what if I told you that the image we all have in our heads is missing a huge, and I mean huge piece of the puzzle? All right, let's get into it. I mean, you've seen these headlines everywhere, right? They paint this picture of a financial guru sitting on a literal mountain of cash, just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And look, it's a great story, a story of conservatism, of patience, and it's not wrong, but it's definitely not the whole story. So you have to ask, is this super cautious, grandfatherly image the real secret to how Berkshire Hathaway has performed so incredibly well for so long? Or is there something else going on? Something kind of hidden in plain sight, right there on the balance sheet? Check out this number. At certain points, Berkshire Hathaway has had an exposure leverage of 1.64. Now, what does that mean? It means for every single dollar of its own money, it had about $1.64 in assets out there working for it. That does not sound like a guy who's just sitting around on his hands, does it? And this, right here, is the central paradox. So for our first section, let's put these two ideas right next to each other. Buffett's media image versus his financial reality. And wow, what a contrast. The media myth gives us this safe, cash-rich investor. But the reality, the one you find when you actually dig into the financial statements, is of a brilliant strategist, a master of using disciplined, incredibly low-cost leverage to just pour gas on his returns. So if it's not your typical borrowing from a bank, where does all this financial firepower come from? Well, the answer lies in what you could call Berkshire's invisible engine. The key, the absolute secret to this entire strategy is a concept called insurance float. Now, in plain English, it's the cash that Berkshire's insurance companies, like Geico, collect from all of us as premiums. Here's the magic part. They get to hold on to this money and invest it for themselves before they have to pay it out for claims later on. It's like getting a massive interest-free loan from millions of people. The process itself is almost beautiful in its simplicity. So, step 1, customers pay their insurance premiums. Step 2, Berkshire takes that giant pool of money, we're talking billions, and invests it. Then, way down the road, step 3, they pay out claims as they come in. But that time gap between collecting the cash and paying it out, that's where the magic happens. And the scale of this is it's staggering. As of 2025, that pool of money, the float, was over $160 billion. Think about that. That's an absolutely immense source of long-term capital that Buffett gets to put to work. You can see it right here. When you look at all the money Berkshire technically owes, insurance float is the biggest piece of the pie by a mile. It's the foundation of their entire financial house. But it isn't debt, not in the traditional sense. It's smarter. It's cheaper. In fact, when their insurance businesses run well, they're effectively getting paid to use this money. It's incredible. So how does this all come together? Let's take a quick look at the financial statements and really decode what's going on with the balance sheet. Yeah, this is the big question, right? How does this invisible engine, this giant pile of float, actually connect to Berkshire's legendary investment portfolio? It all clicks into place when you look at a simple balance sheet. You see the insurance float sitting over there on the liabilities side of the ledger. And what's it supporting on the asset side? You got it, that massive investment portfolio. The float is the fuel that runs the entire investment machine. And the numbers here are just mind-boggling. I mean, sure, everyone talks about the cash pile. And yeah, at over $334 billion, it's enormous. But that insurance float is a foundational pillar all on its own. At over $160 billion, it gives Berkshire this incredible stability and financial firepower. Okay, so having this unique structure allows Buffett to do something that most other investors can only dream of. It allows for, let's call it, the aggression behind the prudence. This is where the whole strategy just comes into perfect focus. It's not just about finding good companies. It's about using this special, low-cost leverage to buy cheap, safe, high-quality stocks, especially when everyone else is running for the hills. And we've seen him do this over and over again. Remember the 2008 crisis? When the world felt like it was ending, he was the one making deals with companies like Goldman Sachs. During the market dip in 2020, he was a strategic buyer. And today, he's got that huge cash reserve, all backed up by the stability of the float, just waiting, ready to pounce on the next big opportunity.
But let's be super clear about this. This isn't reckless gambling. It's the complete opposite. It's disciplined aggression. It's a strategy that's only possible when you combine deep, fundamental business analysis with this one-of-a-kind, stable source of cheap capital.
So now that we've kind of pulled back the curtain on this hidden engine, what's the big takeaway for all of us as investors? What can we learn from the real Buffett strategy? Well, first, you have to look beyond the simple media story. Second, if you really want to understand a company, you've got to dig into its balance sheet, not just its income statement. Third, remember that leverage isn't evil, it's just a tool. The risk comes from how it's used. And finally, Berkshire's secret sauce becomes crystal clear. It's this powerful mix of value, quality, low risk, and yes, leverage.
And that brings us to one last big idea to think about. The media told us one story about Buffett, but the numbers on his balance sheet told a completely different and more powerful one. So as you look at your own investments or your career or your business, ask yourself, what hidden engines, what unseen leverage might you be overlooking?